Welcome to the EchoCast, episode 105, the newest, the bestest, the greatest Destiny 2, Minecraft Dungeons, and Anthem podcast. You thought this was a Division podcast? You scrubs. Why would I do a podcast about that game? Ugh, yuck, gross. Let's talk about jumpin' ninja space magic people, blocky dungeon explorers, and a garbage game. Just kidding. Those games are fine, probably, I guess. I don't play them. This is a Division 2 podcast talking about the community, news, speculation, and updates. Happy April Fools. I am Bon Diesel, and I do Division stuff such as this podcast. I supposedly stream, and maybe I make YouTube videos. I don't even know anymore, because the world is crazy, and there's a pandemic, and I don't know what's happening tomorrow. Anyways, we're going to do a State of the Game recap, talk about some Division 2 topics, maybe get to the Xbox Series X and PS5 talk that I didn't do last week, but we'll see how much I rant. I think we have a listener question. I'll have to look it up on Discord, and then we'll wrap this baby up. So, with the State of the Game recap, this week we had Hamish, Chris, and Bruce all coming to us from home because they are still working from home. Remember that for future discussion. Basically, they started off the State of the Game talking about the bans due to the exploits that had been getting abused in the last couple weeks. It's I'll give the facts before the opinions. Basically, they just explained that there were multiple variations of some DPS bugs that were going on that people were using to exploit various parts of the game, including PvP and PvE, including all of the leveling and all of the new activities that we have gotten. They made it really clear that there was some rumors and some chatter on the social medias that people felt like they had been banned from being in the same group with people who were cheating, and they clarified that if people were banned, it was because they through some back channels were able to identify that that specific person was cheating, use the exploits. I'm going to be straight up at this point. Not a single person who has claimed that they didn't cheat but got banned is someone that I deem credible. So I'm sure they could have missed a few, but there's also a narrative going around on social media that they banned a bunch of people that didn't deserve it. And I'm going to be straight up. It's probably not true. They probably did ban people who actually deserved to be banned. If anything, it seems like they may have missed a few people. They also squelched a rumor that nearly half of the player base had been banned in this thing. It sounded like it was a much smaller percentage. In fact, the way that they said it, they didn't give us an exact number, but they made it sound like it was a minuscule percentage of people who got banned, because there's millions of people who have played the game and are part of the player base. Even the actually playing player base at this point, you know, if they ban 10,000 people, that's still a tiny number of people, all things considered. They did point out that they are aware that there's still some way to bug. I think it's a stacking talent thing, and they've made it clear that if you're doing it, you're going to also get suspended, and that once these current suspensions are up, it's 1 week, that if those people who were suspended once abuse exploits again, they'll have their account banned. It won't just be a week suspension. It'll be a straight bye-bye, you lost your money and all your time invested. They talked about title update 8.5 coming next week. It's going to fix some various issues, such as the resetting control points, There's a fix for the striker stacks, which should be in there. Some other fixes and adjustments with the NPC balancing, and just kind of general things other than that. There are currently full patch 8.5 notes on the official forums. They are aware of things like the M1A Crusader Shield and Focus build, and it's not working like they intended. You're supposed to be scoped to get this big damage buff, but with the Crusader Shield it's not working, and with Focus. So that will be adjusted. They said some named items are overtuned. They are okay with best in slot items, but they are a bit too strong right now. So we're talking about like the Fox knee pads, the mechanics gloves, I think that's what it's called. I'm still looking for those. And combined with the fact that like the Fox knee pads and the gloves have to do with the rifle and the LMGs, which are currently the meta weapons, it kind of exacerbates that problem. So they did talk about there's various talents and things that are undertuned or not strong enough and or bugged, and that they're still working on those. They have I actually really appreciated this. They addressed the whole theory or opinion that's kind of a narrative, especially on Reddit, but even in the Twitter community, maybe on Facebook. If you're a part of a Facebook division group, oof. I've attempted to be a part of a couple of them and bounced out, because if people think the subreddit's bad, y'all should check out those Facebook groups. It is real rough. But they made it clear that from their side, where they can actually see what gear is being used and what's most popular and such, that they're seeing a huge amount of build diversity, and kind of tried to point out that, and it's something I say almost daily, it seems like, it's really important to maybe not put too much weight into what you see on the subreddit and Twitter and stuff like that. The subreddit honestly has a relatively small number of people who are actually active on there. So just because you see everyone on the subreddit circle jerking about something, it's probably not the popular opinion. It's almost guaranteed it isn't. And it's same with Twitter and every other type of social media. You're always needing to realize that there's a very vocal minority in a lot of these things, and they tend to be the loudest. At some point, the Raid 1 exclusive gear set, chest, and backpack pieces are going to be lootable in other activities. It kind of seems like they feel like it's been long enough, especially since the second raid, I assume, is probably coming relatively soon. I can almost guarantee they're going to wait until they feel like they've squashed a lot of these exploits and bugs, but I bet that is probably coming in May or June at the latest, I would say. They are going to have Nikki on the next episode, talking about exotics and potentially upgrading the old exotics in the future if you held on. They did confirm that there's a title update 9 expected late in April. That could be the raid, but we'll see. But because they didn't give any details, there's nothing confirmed or really even hinted. And they did point out that the Venus manhunt target is now available. And that was it. That was the gist of what they talked about this week. I thought this was a good state of the game. I won't try to go too deep into the topic after the mid-roll, but Hamish made it really clear coming out the gate, like, hey, I know there's a lot of salty people right now. That's fine. It's fine to criticize, give us your opinions on stuff, but it's got to be critical. It's got to be useful criticism, because just the blatant, just the crying and yelling, and even worse, is not, it's not cool. It's not okay. Specifically, I saw that someone on Twitter, I believe, had told Hamish that they hope he gets COVID-19 and dies. So, one, that's an awful thing to say to anyone. But I believe Hamish I know he has some kind of immunocompromised situation. I believe he has cystic fibrosis. It could be something else. I don't remember exactly. He's talked about it a little bit. And for someone like him, and typically that condition affects the lungs pretty heavily. I know that he's does well. He runs and things like that. Like he's okay, but a COVID-19 could be very consequential to someone like Hamish, and a lot of other people. So kind of that crossing the line between being maybe a little too enthusiastic about your quote unquote fandom of a video game and straight telling people that you hope they die is a thing that maybe people should think twice about. I have found that the vast majority of these people who are so toxic and so awful, especially directly to people, but claim to be just huge fans of the game, they just aren't. They're just bad people who are probably unhappy with their personal lives, who are attacking people on the internet because it makes them feel better about their pathetic situation. I kind of feel bad for them, almost, but not really. Okay, let's jump into the mid-roll and then we'll talk about some other stuff. Okay, so my first thoughts here before I rant pretty heavily is going to be on the manhunt, the first one that we had, the first league, the first global event, as the second one has opened up. I am pretty happy with it. I thought that the tasks that we had to do to open up the first manhunt target were fine. I wish that they would give us some explanation to why the cleaners are in DC. Actually, in the first stage of the second manhunt target, the target Venus doesn't want to work with the cleaners. So I guess the implied story is that the cleaners, that these 5 agents that we're hunting, were in New York and have come to DC after Keener died. Spoilers. And that's why they're here, which is fine. But I wish there was some more clear explanation of that. I really wish when we would have come back from New York after the story was over, we would have gotten at least one voice clip from Manny saying something like, "Hey, we're glad you're back, but it looks like you brought some friends with you," or something, like. But they didn't, and that's fine. But the first one, I thought that hunting down that agent was fun. The fight against them was okay. I got stuck on a doorway the first time I fought the agent and ended up dying to a fire grenade or something. I was maybe a little frustrated, but then I ended up on them. The first league was okay. It was fine. This was before they did any NPC balancing, and I was mostly doing stuff solo. And I did okay. I think I got like half the rewards of the league. I just didn't have much time to play because of personal reasons. It's if you didn't know, there's a pandemic out there, and my life has been turned kind of upside down. So I didn't get to play as much. I haven't streamed at all in almost a month, I think, if not more. But I enjoyed what I got to do of the league. The global event, I was a little bit more mixed on. What I liked about global events in the first game is that that there were like 3 levels of the global event that you could do. The first level only helped you, and that was active always. I do like that in these new global events you can turn them off, but I do wish there was a way to kind of activate like different levels of the global event. So like the first level would only help you a little. The second level would help you more, but give you like a slight, reverse or like a slight negative. And then the third one would give you a lot of help, but also have a pretty consequential negative. And I would like what we ended up getting for the first global event to be like the third level, because landing one shot on the wrong polarity enemy, completely locking your character up and pretty much always leading to death was frustrating. That wasn't fun to me. Once I got into a rhythm with it and I made a build that felt better, I was okay with it a little bit, but I still just, I don't know. I don't think it was that fun. But I will say I actually did enjoy accomplishing the little task and all the little challenges and stuff. I think I got up to like level, I think out of 10, I got to like level 8 or something on the global event. Again, I was kind of time strapped. So the first manhunt target and the associated things, they were cool. I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying the season in general. It's a cool little constant reward system that does kind of help you keep going. I'm curious to what the new league and the new global event will look like. I've only accomplished one of the parts of the map for the new manhunt target. I'm kind of doing those slowly. Maybe I'll stream, we'll see. But so far, I think the seasons are cool. I really do think though that we need the new raid, and I really hope they aren't done giving us new missions and new things to go do. A part of me fears that this season system is all that's left in the game, that they're just going to do, you know, 4 or 5 seasons and then Division 3 or something, which is fine. I hope that there's more to it than that. We'll have to wait and see. Okay, so let's talk about the banning and exploiting, as you hear my child possibly in the background doing her best cheater impression by crying. So the thing I think that frustrated me the most was as soon as these bans came out, which a lot of people were asking for, including myself, there was this instant kickback. Mostly it seems like from people who were banned, of saying, well, hey, it made your game actually fun, or well, your game's so buggy, I had to do it. And even to the point where there were people who were saying that the loot is so bad and the game is so buggy that they had to do the exploit because that was the only way for the game to feel satisfying. And like, so here's the thing. The Division 2 is a very flawed product. Okay, I get it. I believe it's unique enough and fun enough that it makes up for its flaws. That does not mean I think it's in good shape. I don't believe it's in acceptable shape. I think from the start, almost, and especially with Warlords, it should have been in better shape than it is. I think that's a perfectly fine point to make. What I don't think is cool is to then be like, but I had to cheat. You didn't have to, you chose to. I played a lot. I'm still able to play because I didn't cheat, because I didn't go through, I think it was a 13-step process to do this damage exploit. As well as there were some other exploits, like a revive, like a way that you could kill a boss and they would revive and then you kill them again, and you could do that over and over and exploit that. There are a few other things as well, and there's still some that are out there. And it just, the comparison I made was that, you know, my house could have a cracked window, the faucet in our kitchen could be broken, and there could be a crack in my foundation. But that doesn't mean that you can tell the cops that you saw those things and felt like you were allowed to come rob my house. So, you know, just because the game isn't perfect and just because it may have some significant issues doesn't mean that you can justify cheating and giving yourself an advantage and making other people's experience worse. You can't blame, you know, the game for doing that. That's on you. You decided to do it, and that's fine. Now, what I will say, the other thing that maybe annoyed me the second most, and this is probably silly of me to bring up, but seeing the number of people, especially big creators who have been mighty toxic in the past, sucking up to the developers, into Massive and Ubisoft, and just excuse my French, just jerking them off, was just so funny, because these are the same people who themselves in the past have done this exact type of thing. There were lots of creators who are super mad, and it was really funny. There's some creators who I saw before the bans came out who were making videos showing people how to do the exploits and all of that stuff, saying like, hey, my community wants to see this. Like, this is the content my community demands. Now, what I would say is that means you have kind of a shit tier community, and instead of being their disciple and doing whatever they want, maybe make content that you actually feel is really good, unless that's what you think that is. That's a whole different issue. You know, make the content that you want and attract a community that way. don't suck up to your community to get 2,000 views on a video that you're gonna make 15 cents on anyways. But then you had other creators who were just the biggest fanboys of Division 2 ever now, because they banned people, even though these same people would have been banned in the past. These same people made those same type of videos to get attention themselves and to get clicks and views in the past. And it's the same people who have made jokes about handicapped people and done all kinds of edgy cool guy things to get attention in the past, and in my opinion should have been disbanded from the community entirely. Unfortunately, and this is where I'm going to go into quite a little bit more of a rant, I unfortunately have come to the conclusion that I don't like this community. I like a lot of people in it. There's a lot of incredible people in this community. There's a lot of people, basically everyone I've dealt with the actual game at Massive and the other studios are great. And there's a lot of really cool people involved in the community. But man, the community as a whole has really started to weigh on me, because I consider myself part of it. I consider this content I make to be a thing for that community. But I'll tell you what, I think the people who are probably actually listening to this show, I'm sure you're all fine. I hope so. Please be great. But outside of that, it's hard to interact with people at this point. It's such a shit show. And now going back on my own statement that, you know, those fairly small communities, the subreddit, Twitter, and so on, don't really represent the whole community. It is the part that you get to interact with when you make content, or when you have opinions on the game. And when it comes to that, it's rough. And it's that community that I feel like it was kind of a symbiotic relationship between some of these really toxic creators, who some of them are still around, a lot of them aren't. It was kind of this like give and take of toxic creator says awful thing about dev, community eats it up and wants more. Toxic creator cares more about views than integrity, so they keep making, and it just goes down this path where the supposed quote-unquote big names in the Division community were some of the most toxic people with some of the most toxic communities, and they still are. That was almost as frustrating as the people angry about the bans in the first place, because it's just the fair weather fans of this game. It's fine. The game has its ups and downs, and I think it's fine to have your ups and downs of your opinion of the game. But not a lot of these people have very pure intentions with their opinions and thoughts instead. It's mostly monetary. It's mostly clickbait, and I just really hope that people see through it. So now that I've probably, let's be straight up, I don't matter enough to start actual drama. Again, I highly doubt anyone who likes a lot of these people who I'm referencing pay attention to me, which is fine. But it's just, this is just another example of, you know, the game isn't in good shape. I agree in a lot of ways. I think what's been frustrating for me is how often I've been considered like an Ubisoft shill and things like that. The thing is the Division, I think, is the only Ubisoft property I really like. They ruined Far Cry. They've ruined Ghost Recon. Rainbow Six, I'm just way too out of the loop for it. I don't want a multiplayer game. Rainbow Six is a single player game. It should be, and it's not anymore. Assassin's Creed Odyssey was cool, but it's 8,000 hours, and I don't want to play that. It's too big. And God, like, what's the driving game? It's so bad. It's such an awful game. And so I really am not like this big giant Ubisoft shill. And I'm even happy to admit that like the Division has its significant issues. And has just been kind of a low quality control situation in general. Now, I think there's a lot of reasons for that, both excusable and not excusable. But again, like I said before, I like the game more, and I like the people involved with the game more than the game frustrates me. So it's fine. I've always enjoyed the game. I like the game. I don't think it's perfect. No one should. But it's better than it is bad, if that makes sense. And what I've found, and why I think a lot of people have never taken notice of, is you'll rarely see me actually defend Ubisoft, rarely defend Massive, maybe defend devs sometimes. But mostly I just go after people who are being douchebags. Like, I don't really care if you go after Ubisoft or Massive or whoever. Just don't be a hypocrite. Don't be a liar. You know, don't sensationalize. Don't make shit up. There's plenty of stuff to dog on them that's true. But I rarely see people actually do it. Most of the time it's made up stuff and false things and just circle jerking. So don't do that. Someone DM'd me after the last episode and said I seemed a little upset. And I kind of am. I'm kind of annoyed. I like the game. I like the community that it seems like I've built. You know, if you're listening to this, you're part of a group of people who I think is good for this game and this community. But I have grown, you know, a hair frustrated with the game, but not nearly as frustrated as I am with the general community and even people I know who could be community leaders and could be really strong advocates for reason and logic and decency, and either kind of sit on the sidelines and stay out of it, or kind of in their own ways jump in a little bit. I mean, the really toxic people, we know who they are, right? And that's just who they are. That's their deal. That's how they get their clicks, and that's fine. With them, I don't even care about them anymore. It's just, we know who they are. You know who they are. If you like them, then whatever. That's your deal, not mine. But I think there's a big issue in this community with a lot of people who aren't like that, but who don't still really step up. Maybe I'm part of that. Maybe I'm part of the issue. I don't know. I think it's an interesting discussion to have maybe another time. Once again, I think I'm going to kick the can on the new consoles. We'll talk about that another time. I do have a question from the Discord from Kakarot that says, what do you think the next DLC will be, and when do you think it will come out? So that's kind of a loaded question, I think, because I think we won't see another, like, we're not going to see another Warlords of New York. I don't think that's a thing. I want to say that was in some ways a last hurrah for Division 2. And I don't mean that in a bad way. But like what I said before, I think that seasons will be the rest of this game. I hope that maybe between seasons they introduce like a new mission somewhere that maybe takes a part of the story a little further. I hope that, you know, I hope that we get to rebuild the castle settlement. That's something I've really wanted ever since the game came out. I think that's something that seems set up. I mean, the fact that we get to explore that area, it seems like wasted space, and I hope that that's part of the future plans. So I'm hoping that maybe there's going to be some little bits of like new things to do that kind of pop up. They could really do the castle settlement, could be like kind of the way that these manhunts work, where like there's like certain tasks you need to do, maybe certain materials you need to farm and stuff like that to build that that settlement back up, and maybe open up some new side missions where you can upgrade the settlement. I just think that'd be a really fun little thing to do, a little throwback to the original story of the game. I mean, if there's another Warlords update type thing, that's awesome, but I'm not expecting it. I suspect that the monetization of this game moving forward will be that $10 pass for the seasons, if you want the extra rewards and the cosmetics. And then I think my guess is that I bet next year, maybe around March, I think that they're going to announce Division 3, and it's going to be next-gen exclusive for the consoles, so they can make a game that really pushes the limits when it comes to a lot of things they're probably limited by right now because of the original Xbox and the original PS4. And that's how I think there's going to be a few more seasons, maybe a few drops, a couple more raids, and we'll go from there. I think that's fine. I'm not saying that in a bad way. I think that's going to be plenty of content to keep me busy, especially as my little one gets older and I have less time to play games. But I'd love to be wrong. It'd be really cool if there's some big DLC that drops in like a year, like next March or next February or whatever. But we'll see. We'll see. Okay, that's where we're going to wrap this show up. Hopefully I didn't start any drama, but if I did at this point, who cares? Please take a moment to rate this podcast on whatever platform you use to listen. It helps me get noticed. If you want to support the podcast and my other content, please check out patreon.com/the the EchoCast. I am Bon Diesel on Twitch, where I stream 2 or 3 times a week, supposedly. If you want some cool EchoCast or Bon Diesel merch, check out bondiesel.live/merch. Before I sign off, I do want to say the SitRep guys bowed out. They are no longer doing their podcast. I think they're doing one more episode. I want to say it was their 200th episode. That's coming up soon. If you didn't listen to them, you should go check them out. A little bit different perspective than me, and that's okay. There's only a few podcasts left for the game that are consistent. I know Bombshell's still doing their thing here and there. And I think Locked On and a few others are still doing it. But hey, I'm still here. I'm too stubborn to go away. Deal with it. That's all I have. So until next time.